Alright, what's going on everyone out there on YouTube? NES Ruler, and welcome to a brand new review. And this time around we'll be checking out yet another film that was sent to me to review by Arrow Films. And you can pick this up right now on Blu-ray at all your favorite online retailers. And it's a slasher film from the year 1982, and it's called Girls' Night Out. So, 1982, we're kind of in the peak season of slasher films, if you want to say. You know, 1981, you know, it's goes down as the greatest year for slasher films. So we're still in the peak of the slasher craze, as you would like to say. And a lot of these low-budget slasher films were coming out. And this is yet another one that was released, shot low budget, and put out. And it basically is just there to cap out the slasher craze. And what do I think about it? I mean, if you guys already know my personal opinion on slasher films, they're not my favorite subgenre of horror films, to be completely honest. I'm more of a, not to sound like a snob, I'm more of a sophisticated film watcher. I'm not the biggest fan of slasher films. I mean, I like some. There's definitely some that are better than others, but it's definitely not my favorite subgenre of horror. So, going into it, I always tried to watch slasher films with an open mind, simply because of that fact. And what do I think about this one? I mean, it's a very basic slasher film. I mean, you know exactly what you're going to get. It's kind of weird, though. There's no final girl in this movie. I mean, there's one girl that you kind of could consider the final girl, but there's really no final girl in this movie. It's very strange in that perspective. I was watching it, I was going, oh, there's no final girl in this movie. And they pull a typical canon films in this movie where they license some popular songs from the time and they just play them over and over and over again throughout the movie. I mean, Canon used to do that shit all the time. I know, especially in, like, The Last American Virgin, they play the same songs over and over and over again in that movie because they licensed these popular songs from the time. And they're like, well, we have the money. We spent the money on these songs. We might as well use them. And that happens in this movie. And it made me laugh when I was watching it because the same songs just keep popping up and up and up and up. So it's quite amusing. So basically we follow this college town that every year does a yearly scavenger hunt. And we follow a group of college people who are going out to do the scavenger hunt. And along the way, they are getting slashed off by this person in this bear costume. I have to say, the way that the killer ends up killing its victims is quite good in this movie. It puts like these kitchen knives, like Freddy style, in its paws like a bear, and you know, pops them out and slashes people in the throat. It's quite interesting, as you can see on this cover. It's kind of how it goes down in the movie. So it's quite an interesting killer in that sense. And as we go on, we learn this backstory about how in this college there was a girl that was murdered by this guy back in the day, and now the father of this girl is now the lead of security. And we think that this killer escaped the insane asylum and now is back hunting all these young co-eds on the college campus during their scavenger hunt. And that's basically about it. Pretty simple. They get picked off one by one, and at the end we get a huge reveal, if you want to say, which isn't actually that big a reveal. You know, it's your typical slasher reveal. The transfer on this, Arrow goes ahead and says right off the bat that you're not going to get the greatest transfer on this film because, for one, they had to use the prints that were personally owned by the producer of this movie, and even then, some of the shots were missing and things like that. So they had to use some tapes to put in the extra stuff that was missing, and you could tell a little bit. It's very throughout the film. You get some very heavy grain and film damage. Obviously, you could see throughout the film. It's more prevalent in the second half of the film compared to the first half of the film. But I feel like Arrow did the best job that they could with the resources that they had to make the film at least look presentable in an HD format, and I feel like they succeeded. It's not going to blow your mind, but you know, considering this film was low budget and probably not taken care the best, you know what you're probably going to get when it comes to surviving film negatives. So I give them credit that they at least tried their best to get a quality release out of this movie. And for feature-wise, you get a boatload of features. Let me take the slip cover off so you can see. You get a boatload of features, a bunch of interviews with a lot of the actors and actresses, a new commentary track with a film critic that Arrow loves to do, and some archival footage and things like that. So you get your typical Arrow features on this. A lot of new interviews and things like that. So very interesting. I watched a couple of them, and they're interesting. It's interesting to hear about low-budget films and how they get made and things like that. I always appreciate it. So in the package, you get your typical disc, and you get your typical Arrow booklet that comes in all these movies that talks about the film and things like that. And you get reversible cover art, which is always awesome. You get the original cover art. So a pretty okay, nice release here from Arrow for a pretty niche slasher film. So do I think you guys should check out Girls' Night Out? If you like low-budget slasher films from the 80s, you're probably going to love this. If you don't like low-budget slasher films from the 80s, it's probably not going to be up your alley. But I had a semi-good time with it. It's not like it didn't blow my brains out or anything like that, but it's watchable. So a semi-recommendation, I suppose, if you like slasher films. So that is my review of Girls' Night Out from 1982. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NESRoto22. Hope everybody's doing well, and I shall talk to you guys soon. See ya later.